She was just 15 years old, a bright, curious teenager from Utah, full of life, with her whole future ahead of her. But on April 21st, 2025, Alisa Petrov vanished. And since that day, her family and an entire community have been searching for answers. It was a regular school day in American Fork, Utah. Alisa attended her classes like usual, and there was nothing out of the ordinary. Later that day, she was seen on surveillance footage at a local gas station. She made a small purchase, looked calm, composed. After that, she boarded a UTA train. She got off in Provo. That's where things took a strange turn. Multiple witnesses reported seeing her approach people, asking for help to get to Las Vegas, Nevada. Investigators believe Alisa may have been trying to meet someone she had communicated with online. She had used several social media platforms and chat apps in the days leading up to her disappearance. And while law enforcement hasn't confirmed who she was talking to, they've classified her as an endangered runaway. That classification highlights the serious risk she could be facing. She was traveling alone, possibly to meet someone she had never met in real life. And now, no one has heard from her. Her family is devastated. In a heartfelt public plea, they urged Alisa to come home, promising she's not in trouble. They just want her safe. They created a website to spread awareness and are offering a $20,000 reward for any information that could lead to her return. They made one thing clear. There's no anger, only love, only concern, and an unshakable hope that she'll be found. Authorities are now examining her phone and iPad, both of which were with her when she disappeared. They're hoping these devices hold clues about where she may have gone, or who she may have been communicating with. Alisa is 5'3", weighs about 122 pounds, and was last seen wearing a white shirt with dark lettering on the front. Her age, the mysterious circumstances, and the possibility that she's meeting strangers have made this case urgent. Police and volunteers continue their efforts, and her family refuses to give up hope. Alisa's story is a painful reminder of the risks young people can face online, and the importance of open communication and awareness in the digital age. If you know anything, even the smallest detail, please contact the South Jordan Police Department. Someone, somewhere knows something. And her family, they're just waiting to hear that one call that brings Alisa home. The mysterious disappearance of 65-year-old Timothy McSears has left a quiet Georgia community searching for answers and holding on to hope. A dedicated volunteer, a beloved family member, a respected worker. Timothy was last seen on Thursday, March 6, 2025, at Mount Zion Baptist Church on Dunwoody Road in Walker County. Since then, there has been no confirmed trace of him, prompting an ongoing investigation led by the Walker County Sheriff's Office. Despite false reports circulating on social media claiming he has been located, officials have firmly stated these claims are not true. Timothy remains missing, and the search continues with urgency. Timothy McSears was well known in the Lafayette area, where he worked as a concrete finisher. He was deeply involved in his church community and often volunteered at Mount Zion Baptist Church, where he was last seen. According to Sheriff Steve Wilson, Timothy was the one who would arrive early on Sunday mornings to open the church doors, a responsibility he never missed. His consistent presence and warm spirit earned him the respect and affection of many in the area. When Timothy failed to appear at a family gathering 2 days after he was last seen, his loved ones immediately knew something was wrong. His brother, Donnie McSears, expressed the emotional toll the disappearance has taken on the family, describing the ongoing uncertainty as almost unbearable. Donnie said, "You keep expecting to see him, and he's just not there."
I just can't imagine what it's like to keep him on your mind all the time, and you even expect sometimes to see him, and he's not there.
Timothy's niece, Erica Madison, echoed that same sentiment, who described her uncle as someone full of life, humor, and generosity.
I can't hardly think of anyone that would want to harm him, and we're just baffled about his disappearance. Tim is part of a very big family of loving, closely connected family members. He's funny. He talked bad about me, but there's nothing he wouldn't do for me or anyone else. He was always giving and working and helping. If there's anything anyone can do, anything anyone knows that would help us find him and return him to us, we would be so grateful.
The last known sighting of Timothy came from a neighbor who saw him around 6 p.m. that Thursday, reportedly throwing away trash near the church. Since then, there have been no confirmed leads. Investigators have combed the area and conducted interviews, but still, no sign of Timothy. The Walker County Sheriff's Office has emphasized that detectives actively work the case and exploring all possibilities. A $10,000 reward has been offered for information that helps bring Timothy home, underscoring just how seriously law enforcement is treating his disappearance. Sheriff Wilson recently stood beside Timothy's family at a press conference, urging the public to come forward with any information that might help. He reiterated the unusual nature of the case, noting that Timothy is not someone who would typically vanish without a trace. With each passing day, the community continues to hope for clarity and resolution. Timothy's absence has left a void in the hearts of those who knew him best. As the investigation moves forward, his family, friends, and church community remain committed to finding him, refusing to give up hope. Until then, the mystery of Timothy McSears continues to weigh heavily on all those touched by his kindness, his humor, and his unwavering presence. Tiffany Valiante of Mays Landing, New Jersey, was your typical 18-year-old. She had just graduated from Oakcrest High School and was excited to dive into college. Tiffany had maintained good grades throughout her academic career and always showed a keen interest in sports. She especially excelled in volleyball and softball, although she preferred the former. But despite her shining outward appearance, things behind the scenes were very different. Just months before she was set to leave for college, Tiffany would be involved in an incident her parents strongly believe was not an accident. Tiffany Valiante had worked so hard in volleyball that she earned a scholarship to Mercy College in New York. Being 6 feet 2 inches gave her a clear edge on the court, and that scholarship was her golden ticket. When she wasn't playing for Mercy College's volleyball team, she planned to major in criminal justice. Tiffany was never afraid to stand up for what was right and what was just. The Valiante family was seen as a happy, loving one. But things aren't always as they seem. Reports online mention that in 2014, a year before the incident, Tiffany and her mother Diane had come under the attention of Child Protective Services. That visit followed several spats at home, and in one instance, Diane admitted to punching her daughter. Shortly before graduation, Tiffany's behavior began to change. After the passing of her grandfather, she started skipping lessons and began spending time with kids at the bike shed, smoking. Part of this change may have come from inner struggles she was facing at the time. In 2015, Tiffany came out as a lesbian, which everyone around her seemed to accept. Then came July 12, 2015, the night that changed everything. That evening, the Valiantes attended a graduation party. At around 9:15 p.m., Tiffany left the party, while her parents stayed behind. Shortly after, Diane got a phone call from one of Tiffany's friends, who was furious. She accused Tiffany of stealing her debit card and using it to make purchases. Disgusted and enraged, Diane immediately confronted her daughter. For about 10 minutes, the two argued. Tiffany vehemently denied it, but according to some reports, toward the end of the argument, Tiffany admitted to using the card. Diane watched as Tiffany slipped the stolen card into her pocket. And that was it. Diane went inside to get her husband. When she came back, Tiffany was gone. Diane would later say, Tiffany was 6 feet 2 inches, She towered over others and couldn't have just disappeared without being seen. Her parents spent the next hour searching for her, angry, confused, not knowing that something far more terrifying was coming. At around 11 p.m., a New Jersey transit train along the Atlantic City rail line hit something, or someone. The driver slammed the brakes, jumped out, but it was too late. A young woman, striking blonde hair, lay on the tracks. The New Jersey Transit Police were called at 11:30 p.m. Just minutes later, the Valiante family reported their daughter missing. The body on the tracks was quickly identified as 18-year-old Tiffany. She was barefoot, her shorts and hairband removed. She was wearing only a white t-shirt. The site where she was found was 4 miles from where she was last seen. And strangely, New Jersey Transit Police said she likely walked there alone, barefoot. Authorities rushed to rule her death as suicide, but family and friends weren't convinced. In fact, therapists who had spoken to Tiffany in 2014 found no signs of depression or mental health issues. Despite this, Tiffany's body was cremated quickly, something Diane now deeply regrets. She had trusted the investigators, believed they were there to find the truth. The train driver and engineer's statements changed too. At first they said they didn't see Tiffany until it was too late, but later they claimed they saw her standing by the tracks as if waiting. They also mentioned an axe at the scene, covered in red markings. That axe was reportedly lost by police. One thing that really bothered the family was her feet. If Tiffany had walked barefoot through bushes and brambles for 4 miles, why were her feet clean? No cuts, no scrapes, no dirt. Weeks later, Diane was back at the scene. She searched the area herself and made a shocking discovery. Her daughter's shoes, headband, and t-shirt neatly tucked away beneath the tree. She also found a sweatshirt and a keychain. The sweatshirt wasn't hers, neither was the keychain. And guess what? Police lost the keychain before it could be forensically analyzed. Many began accusing the New Jersey Transit Police of tampering with evidence, of hiding the truth. Rumors spread in the community. One theory: Tiffany was held at weapon point, forced to remove her clothes, her shoes, and march to the tracks. From there, she was either pushed or chased onto the tracks, into the path of an 80 MEV train. The attacker would have needed to know the train schedule if this was planned. Despite the family's constant pleas, police refused to change their conclusion. But pressure grew. In 2022, a Change.org petition was launched, urging New Jersey Attorney General Matthew J. Platkin to reopen the case. It currently has over 13,200 signatures. If you have any information about what happened to Tiffany Valiante, please contact the New Jersey Transit Police at 97337866565. Caleb Wells, a 31-year-old father of 2, known to those close to him as Corey, mysteriously vanished in the summer of 2021 after boarding a flight from Georgia to California. His disappearance has left his family in ongoing distress, with more questions than answers, and a continued hope that one day he will be found safe. Caleb's mother last saw her son was on July 2nd, 2021. The very next day, he boarded a flight to California, a trip that seemed ordinary at the time, but what followed has been an ongoing mystery, one that continues to baffle both family and authorities. Caleb was known for his consistency, especially when it came to keeping in touch with family. He never missed an important call, particularly birthday wishes to loved ones. So, when his mother's birthday came and went, without a word from him, alarm bells immediately rang. It was unlike Caleb, and his absence began to weigh heavily on those who knew and loved him. Before leaving Georgia, Caleb had told his daughter Angelia, now 15 years old, that he would be traveling with someone named Michael Brown, a man Caleb had known since high school. This detail became central to understanding his last known movements. In September 2021, unable to bear the uncertainty, Caleb's mother, Miss Walker, traveled to California in search of her son. She traced his steps to a Motel 6 in Rowland Heights, where both Caleb and Michael Brown had reportedly stayed. While she was able to confirm through staff that both men had indeed been at the motel, privacy policies prevented her from obtaining or reviewing the surveillance footage, and without a legal order, she was unable to take the investigation any further. Despite this setback, her determination never wavered. Over the next 2 years, she returned to California 5 more times, each trip driven by hope and the unwavering love of a mother searching for answers. Despite extensive personal efforts and repeated inquiries, no significant breakthroughs were made. Eventually, local law enforcement added Caleb Wells to the Department of Justice's official missing persons list in California. The listing was both a sobering confirmation of his status and a small glimmer of hope that his case would receive the formal attention it deserved. Caleb's disappearance remains a mystery. There has been no confirmed contact, no financial activity, and no verified sightings. For his family, the silence is the most difficult part. His mother continues to speak openly about her hope and her faith that her son will return. She refuses to give up on the belief that one day the door will open and she will see her son again. Tammy Pitkin was 54 years old when she disappeared. A mother, an animal lover, a longtime resident of Red Bluff, California. And nearly a year later, her disappearance remains one of the most puzzling unsolved cases in the Pacific Northwest. Tammy had been through a lot. She'd worked as a realtor for years, but around the time she vanished, she was no longer employed. It's still unclear whether she left her job by choice, or if something else had happened. She had also recently gone through a painful divorce. After 20 years of marriage, it ended in August of 2023, and according to legal documents, if Tammy remained missing, her share of the couple's assets would go to her son. That's part of what makes her disappearance so painful. Tammy missed some of the most important moments in her family's life: her son's wedding, the birth of a grandchild. And yet, no one's seen her since October 2022. The last confirmed sighting of Tammy was on October 14th. That day, she told her son she was heading out on a short trip, just for a few days. But over the next 2 days, her movements became strange. She bought a prepaid phone card in Red Bluff, withdrew $1,000 from a bank account her family didn't even know she had. She bought fast food in Weed, California, gas in Glendale, Oregon, a prepaid Visa card in Sutherland, and stopped at another convenience store in Glendale. By October 16th and 17th, Tammy had traveled hundreds of miles. She even reserved a room at a Best Western in Sutherland, using her ex-husband's credit card, though she paid for the stay in cash. Then, early on the 17th, she bought gas again and was spotted on security footage in Albany, Oregon. She was walking with her dogs, alone. That was the last time she was ever seen. Tammy wasn't reported missing until October 26th, and to this day, it's not known who actually filed that report. Then, just a few days later, on October 29th, a hunter made a chilling discovery. Tammy's grey Toyota Camry was found abandoned on a remote forest road about 30 miles east of Sweet Home, Oregon. It had likely been sitting there since October 17th, untouched, buried in snowfall and harsh weather. Inside the car was almost everything: her purse, ID passport, birth certificate, medications, toiletries, dog leashes, clothes, a worn-out firearm, even moving boxes filled with shoes. But Tammy, gone. So was one of her 2 dogs, Cope. Her phone, the prepaid burner, and an extra car key fob were also missing. Despite intensive searches with law enforcement and K9 units, there was no sign of her. Then, in February 2023, months after she vanished, a glimmer of hope appeared. Trooper, one of her dogs, was found alive, running along Highway 20, not far from where the car had been discovered. Miraculously, Trooper was in good health, even after surviving a brutal Oregon winter. But Tammy and Cope were still nowhere to be found. Even more questions emerged. Tammy's ex-husband had remarried. He also sold her car shortly after she disappeared, and when Trooper was found, neither he nor Tammy's son claimed the dog. Instead, an Oregon couple took Trooper in and gave him a new home. Tammy's half-sister, Iraka Laughlin, keeps in touch with that family. Despite a strained relationship in recent years, Iraka has become one of the most vocal advocates for finding answers. She remembers Tammy as a remarkable woman, someone who may have been struggling, yes, but also someone with deep compassion, especially for animals. Tammy was known to support local rescues, and she loved her dogs dearly. So why would she just disappear? Why leave behind everything, even her beloved pets? To this day, the case remains wide open. No signs of foul play, but no clear evidence of what truly happened either. DNA results from items in the vehicle are still pending, and authorities say there's still no definitive lead. As months stretch into years, Tammy's story stands as a haunting reminder that a person can vanish completely, leaving behind memories, questions, and a loyal dog who somehow, against all odds, found his way back to people willing to care. If you have any information, no matter how small, please contact the Lynn County Sheriff's Office, because someone out there knows something, and it's time for Tammy's story to have an ending. The story of Henry Frantz Jr., a beloved figure in the Atlanta area, took a heartbreaking and deeply mysterious turn in March 2024. Frantz, aged 74, known widely for his talent with the bagpipes and as a founding member of the Atlanta Pipe Band, passed away during a scuba diving excursion in Hawaii. The news of his sudden passing shocked many in his community, especially those who had admired his music and spirit for decades. But what followed in the days after his departure would leave his family stunned and raise even more questions. On March 16th, just 6 days after his passing, family members arrived at Frantz's home in Decatur, Georgia, to begin organizing his belongings and handling his personal affairs. The property, located about 15 miles outside Atlanta, had long been a private and quiet place. As the family sorted through the items left behind, they ventured into the backyard, where Frantz had built a wooden treehouse years earlier. What they found inside was both shocking and heartbreaking. The skeletal remains of Frantz's son, Henry Doyle Colin Frantz, who had been missing for over 4 years. Henry Doyle was just 28 years old when he was last seen, and for years, his absence had been a source of quiet sorrow and confusion for the family. The discovery of his remains inside the treehouse on his father's own property added a new, deeply emotional layer to an already difficult time. The DeKalb County Medical Examiner's Office began an immediate investigation into the circumstances surrounding the discovery. And while no foul play is currently suspected, the mystery of how Henry Doyle came to be in the treehouse remains. Frantz Jr., described by his daughter as a deeply curious and active man, had lived alone since 2018, following the passing of his second wife. Though loved by many, his family said visits had become rare in recent years, with most relatives living out of state. The solitude of the home may have contributed to the delay in discovering the younger Frantz's whereabouts, a reality that has left the family with more questions than answers. In the wake of both losses, the Atlanta community came together to honor Frantz Jr.'s legacy. As a performer, he had shared his music at countless events, from weddings and funerals to cultural celebrations and historic commemorations. The Atlanta Pipe Band, which he helped found and sustain for more than 5 decades, paid tribute to his passion and dedication, describing his influence as immeasurable. Frantz had performed for figures such as Presidents Carter and Bush, Prince Charles, and the Dalai Lama. Friends and fellow musicians, like Leonard E. Wood, remembered him not just for his musical talent, but for his adventurous spirit and commitment to discovery. Frantz was an attorney by profession, but it was his love of exploration through music, travel, fossils, and scuba diving that defined him in the hearts of many. Though his passing and the discovery of his son have left lingering sorrow, the memory of Henry Frantz Jr. continues to echo in the sound of bagpipes across Atlanta and beyond. A life remembered for its vibrancy, its complexity, and the quiet mysteries it left behind. The disappearance of David McAfee remains one of the most troubling and perplexing missing person cases in East Tennessee. At the time he vanished, David was 31 years old and living in New Market, a small town in Jefferson County. He was the father of 3 sons and was in a committed relationship, though sources vary on whether his partner was his girlfriend, fiancée, or wife. Regardless of the official label, she played a central role in the timeline leading up to the day David vanished. David was the youngest son in his family, with a younger sister, Kadana, who had recently given birth, a moment David had reportedly been excited about and deeply supportive of. Professionally, David listed himself as self-employed in nearby Jefferson City, just a short drive from New Market. The exact nature of his work is unclear, but he seemed to maintain a stable lifestyle, despite a history of struggling with substances. Whether addiction played any role in his disappearance remains speculative. There is no confirmed evidence that he was actively using at the time he went missing. David had also recently faced legal trouble. On April 6, 2021, he was convicted of committing a burglary, specifically one categorized as other than habitation, which typically refers to a non-residential structure like a store or business. He was sentenced later that month and was on probation at the time of his disappearance. As of now, his status is listed as absconded. The events of October 28, 2021 unfolded like any ordinary day until they took a sudden and disturbing turn. David was last seen at 7:15 in the morning, asleep beside his partner at their home off Old Dandridge Pike. Later that day, he was reportedly working on a friend's truck and was seen by a neighbor in the area. By 2:30 in the afternoon, he had gotten a ride to a BP gas station off Asheville Highway, where security footage captured him purchasing cigarettes. His partner returned home around 3:45, expecting to find him there, but the house was empty. His gaming console, however, was still on, an odd detail suggesting he hadn't planned to be away for long. Despite several unanswered calls, David finally spoke to his partner around 5:30, claiming he was still working on the truck. At 6:13, he texted a friend, and then, just over an hour later, at 7:30 p.m., his partner received 3 alarming crash detection alerts from David's iPhone. These alerts, a safety feature for detecting car crashes, were immediately concerning. When she contacted the Jefferson County dispatchers, they informed her that no crashes had been reported in the area. Acting quickly, she drove to the crash's reported location, but found no sign of an accident or David. The following day, David's partner reported him missing. Soon after, his phone was located behind Providence Church in Jefferson City. The device appeared to have been thrown against a wall, possibly triggering the crash detection software. There was also an incomplete attempt to dial 911 from the phone, which never went through. The final GPS ping placed the phone on Walnut Avenue, just a short distance from the church. What makes David's disappearance even more unsettling are the personal items he left behind. He did not have his jacket, wallet, or his second phone with him. Nor did he have his hat, something his family said he always wore and rarely parted with. The absence of these items, combined with the unexplained crash alert and abandoned phone, has left his loved ones fearing the worst. To this day, David McAfee remains missing. With no confirmed sightings, no activity on his accounts, and no new leads, the case remains open, but stagnant. His family continues to hope for answers and remains desperate to know what happened on that October evening in 2021 when David vanished without a trace. On the morning of November 2nd, 2010, a chilling news story captured the attention of everyone in Guildford. Molan, an 80-year-old mother, felt a deep sense of dread as she listened to the broadcast. Though the news anchor didn't mention any names, Molan had a haunting intuition that the story was about her daughter, Roberta Bobby Miller. The tragedy had unfolded just the day before, claiming not only Bobby's life, but also that of her loyal dog, Sport. What could have led to such a horrifying event in the quiet, serene town of Guildford? Bobby, 54, had recently started a new chapter in her life. She had moved into a modest home on Country Club Road after finalizing a difficult divorce from her husband, Gary Miller, just a few months earlier. Their marriage, which began in the early 1980s, after meeting in the late 70s when Bobby worked as a waitress, had lasted decades. Together they raised 2 children, Jennifer and Jonathan, building what seemed to be a stable life. However, by the mid-2000s, cracks began to appear in their relationship, and by 2007, the marriage had reached its breaking point. The divorce was finalized on August 13th, 2010, leaving Bobby to rebuild her life in a new home across from Lake Whippoorwill. Unfortunately, peace was short-lived. Gary's lawyer soon filed a motion accusing Bobby of not adhering to her part of their property agreement. A court date had been set for the following days, adding another layer of stress to her life. Despite this, the Halloween weekend of 2010 appeared uneventful. On Friday, Bobby went on a date. The next day, she had dinner and watched movies with her close friend Diane. By Sunday, October 31st, she was busy working on her home. Around 5 p.m., she visited a Lowe's store, just 5 miles from her house, picking up supplies. But sometime after she returned home, everything took a dark and unexpected turn. An unknown individual approached Bobby's home later that evening. Her car, parked visibly in the driveway, signaled her presence inside. While she was in the kitchen, she was fatally shot. The sound of the gunshot shattered the stillness of the neighborhood, ending her life instantly. The circumstances of the crime only deepened the mystery. There were no signs of forced entry, leaving investigators to wonder if the intruder had a key, if Bobby had left the doors unlocked, or if she had trusted the person enough to let them inside, willingly. The possibility of robbery was quickly ruled out. Despite $26,000 in cash being in the house, nothing was stolen. Further investigation uncovered an additional $35,200 in cash and checks intended for the family. As detectives dug deeper, the story became even more complex. Just 2 days before Bobby's murder, on October 29th, a suspicious fire had destroyed a lakeside cabin co-owned by Bobby and Gary on Great East Lake. The fire was determined to be arson, raising more questions about whether it was connected to her death. Initially, suspicion fell on Gary. Investigators scrutinized his alibi, questioned him extensively, and even administered polygraph tests. Ultimately, he was cleared of any involvement. Attention then shifted to their son, Jonathan, who was named a person of interest. Despite this lead, no concrete evidence ever emerged to implicate him or anyone else in the crime. Who would have wanted Bobby dead? Was the fire at the cabin a warning or a completely unrelated event? These questions remain unanswered. Bobby's brother Ken has never given up hope of finding the truth. He keeps a memory book dedicated to his sister and has offered a $55,000 reward for any information that leads to an arrest and conviction. The loss of Bobby has left a void in her family and community, and after all these years, her case still casts a dark shadow over Guilford. The lingering mystery continues to haunt those who knew and loved her as they wait for justice to be served finally. When Charles Browning III, a 30-year-old man from Mobile, Alabama, went missing, he was the father of 5 children, 2 of which had just been born. He was not married, but had been in a relationship with the woman for many years, and so they were considered to be common-law wife and husband. On the day of his disappearance, the 27th of September 2019, Charles and his wife were out in town in Mobile. While there, his wife told him that she needed to use the bathroom. They looked for a spot to stop and decided that a nearby IHOP restaurant was the best option. His wife then went inside, and when she was done, stepped outside to find that Charles was nowhere to be seen. He's not been in contact with her or his children since, and his whereabouts remain unknown to this day. The couple had been driving around in his wife's car since Charles didn't own one at the time, and so it isn't known whether he was picked up by someone outside the restaurant or if he left on foot after simply deciding to leave. What's caused his family and investigators much concern was the fact that Charles had been acting strangely in the days before he went missing. According to those who knew him, he'd started becoming paranoid, but declined to provide any details as to what he was paranoid about. But they did add that he always kept in touch with his family and that it's very unlike him to leave without informing them of where he was planning on traveling to. Since no one saw what happened during the first few minutes while his wife was in the restaurant, there's no telling which direction he may have walked in or whether he was with someone when he disappeared. Charles, who usually has a goatee, is described by his friends and family as having brown hair with green eyes, standing 5 feet 11 inches tall and weighing 215 pounds. They added that he wears piercings in both of his nipples and that he can be identified by a large scar that runs from under his left ribcage to his right shoulder. They also included details and descriptions of each of the tattoos that he's known to have on his body. The first is a portrait of his youngest children on his chest. The second is of the name Terror on the back of his neck. The third is the word Mom, along with a red rose on his upper left arm. On his right upper arm, he has a tattoo of a red devil that's wearing a hat. On one of his legs, he has a tattoo of a woman along with a banner. He has the words loyalty, Omiya, and respect on his abdomen. The words in loving memory of Nan on his forearm, and another of several koi fish on the other arm. Luckily, Charles's family had photos of some of these tattoos and were able to provide investigators with images that were then released to the public, in case someone had seen him, and so that they could recognize him if he was spotted. When Charles's wife last saw him outside the IHOP, he was wearing khaki shorts, a maroon shirt, a blue and white baseball hat, and brown flip-flops. His case remains open, and anyone with additional information can contact the Mobile Police Department at 251-208-7211. CIEHA Taylor was born on the 16th of November 1991 to Kenneth Taylor. In the early months of 2020, CIEHA's life began to take a turn. It was a favorable turn initially. She was overcoming addiction issues and turning her life around. During this time, she started working at a call center and was living with her on-again, off-again boyfriend. Occasionally, she stayed with a friend in nearby Lakeland in her car, or with another man in Plant City, Florida. In early February of that year, her good streak came to an end. CIEHA dropped her boyfriend off on Cowart Road in Plant City and left around 4 p.m. that afternoon. She mentioned she would be meeting up with a friend in Lakeland. By 7 p.m., however, a local police officer discovered something that sparked concern in the community. On the 900 block of East Trapnell Road, west of Tucker Road in Plant City, the officer found a black 2000 Toyota Celica. It was CIEHA's car. The vehicle's faded paint only added to the eeriness of the scene. The engine was still running, the driver's door was ajar, and the car sat across railroad tracks that were no longer in use. The tracks were just 1 mile away from her boyfriend's residence. The officer moved the car off the tracks but failed to run the plates or notify the owner. There was no one at the scene. CIEHA was nowhere to be found, and she has not been heard from since. A few days later, her family filed a missing person report with the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office after learning her car had been found and was still sitting where the officer had parked it. The investigation soon began. Authorities suggested the vehicle had been left on the tracks sometime after she dropped off her boyfriend. When evaluating the scene, they found CIEHA's car keys and wallet, which contained her debit card and license. Her cell phone was discovered on the ground outside the car. Police turned their attention to CIEHA's boyfriend, one of the last people to see her, along with his friend and the friend's father. Extensive searches were conducted for weeks. The area around the railroad tracks was thoroughly combed, but no sign of CIEHA was found. Then, on the 26th of February, a haunting discovery was made. Near the area where CIEHA's car had been abandoned, her shoes were found resting on a drainage pipe. Nearby, a light pole displayed CIEHA's missing person poster eerily flapping in the wind. Investigators believe her shoes had been placed there shortly after her disappearance. To this day, no evidence or motive for foul play has been found, and the case remains active and ongoing. A $10,000 reward is being offered for any information leading to CIEHA's whereabouts. CIEHA Taylor is described as 5 feet 6 inches tall and weighing around 170 pounds. She has brown or red hair and brown eyes. She also has several tattoos, including an infinity symbol on her chest, a ladybug on her left leg, a rose on her inner forearm, a sun on her right thigh, and 2 X's on her shoulder. At the time of her disappearance, she was last seen wearing a grey, blue, white, and red striped mini dress, tan knee-high boots, and a pink sweater. If you have any information about this case, please contact the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office at 813-247-8200. In February of 2019, a 41-year-old woman named Amanda McPhee went missing. She'd been last seen in Adelaide on a Monday afternoon. An investigation was carried out, and Australian authorities were able to dig up some CCTV footage. This revealed Amanda filling up her car at a gas station and withdrawing $40 from a service station. This occurred at 15 minutes past 6 in the evening at Murray Bridge on the 11th of February. Amanda's family informed police that she was also spotted on CCTV camera at Keith, close to the Victorian border, around 7:30 that very evening. It was reported that she had last been seen in Adelaide at 4:30 in the afternoon. Aside from being captured on the CCTV cameras, since that day, Amanda has not used her bank account, even though her family has regularly been depositing money into it in case she was in need. She had additionally not logged into any of her social media accounts. It's said that Amanda's children had been the center of her world for the past 8 years. But now, they're asking their grandmother, Kathy McPhee, where their mother is. The events that unfolded were strange and suspicious. Amanda had gone to get her 2 children from school and brought them back home. She then got her daughter ready for ball practice. But instead, she had taken both of her children to her friend's house. She dropped them off, left, and has not been heard from since. Just like that, she left her children behind, her husband, Jake, a mobile device, clothing, and all of her personal items. Kathy informed the authorities that her daughter would have never left her 2 children behind, so she knew something was definitely wrong. She further explained that the situation was rather difficult for them, particularly for the children, who don't know where their mother is. As for Kathy and Jake, they have no idea what to tell them. The grandchildren reportedly keep asking Kathy if their lost mother is coming back and asking where she is. They've even questioned if the police have found her yet. It's theorized that someone may have assisted in her fleeing, and that someone knows where she might be. Kathy believes that whoever that person is will be able to give the authorities the information that's needed. She also explained that Jake has been trying to hold a strong front for the children and builds a routine to keep them on a steady path while the investigation carries on. The whole ordeal has been rather difficult for Kathy. She was said to have driven from her Mildura home in Victoria the moment she heard that her beloved daughter had gone missing. She's been at their home ever since, looking after her grandchildren and helping Jake. The 62-year-old grandmother explained that to stay at her own house would have been a difficult task, which is why she had driven out to her daughter's home in order to do something that could help. She makes sure that the children are fed and also takes them to school. Kathy additionally had friends from Murray Bridge to Kanara that are on the lookout for her missing daughter. Another CCTV image was captured of the car that Amanda had been traveling in. Authorities initially believed that she could have traveled to Kanara, where she lived previously. But Kathy suggested that she may have gone to Melbourne, since she was passing through Keith. Senior Sergeant Roger Kern explained that the woman had never disappeared in such an unusual manner before, and that she had made arrangements to attend a ball match at a local school to which she never showed up. Authorities also suggest she may have left Adelaide for some sort of personal reasons, but that her friends and family are looking out for her. Sergeant Kern also detailed that they made contact with their counterparts in Kanara, Victoria, as well as New South Wales, to keep an eye out for the missing mother. Detectives were also checking traffic cameras to determine what route she may have possibly taken. Amanda is described as being 5 feet 5 inches tall and has a slim build. She has long, straight brunette hair and blue eyes. She'd been traveling in a blue Toyota RAV4 with the South Australian registration plate S518ALR. According to statistics from the Australian Institute of Criminology, 38,000 people are reported missing on a yearly basis, with about 60% of them being found within 48 hours. Some statistics also show that there are around 1,600 people who are said to suffer from certain mental health conditions, who tend to go missing for a much longer time, over 3 months, on a yearly basis. If anyone has any information regarding Amanda McPhee's whereabouts, they are encouraged to contact the authorities at 1314. The South Australian Police are now appealing for public assistance in order to locate the missing mother. It's stated that friends and family are concerned about her welfare. The Facebook page 7 News Adelaide has released an image of Amanda and her registration number, along with some information concerning the individual. Martise Brian Williams' disappearance is another case where someone leaves home to meet up with an unknown person, only to disappear without a trace. Years have passed, yet very few clues have been found, leaving his family desperate for answers. Martise lived on Gwyn Oak Avenue in Baltimore, Maryland, in August 2014. He was a dedicated fan of the Baltimore Ravens football team and was known for being deeply involved in his community. His family describes him as someone who cherished his loved ones and maintained close contact with both friends and relatives. Because of this, his sudden disappearance was alarming, as it was completely out of character for him to go so long without reaching out. On August 4th, 2014, Martise was last seen by his roommate at their apartment in Gwyn Oak. That day, he told his roommate that he was heading out to meet someone in either Randallstown or the Liberty Reservoir area. He then got into his silver Buick Verano and drove off. However, he never returned home, and no one has heard from him since. This case is even more worrying because Martise never said who he was meeting or why. When he failed to return home that night, his roommate immediately contacted his parents, who grew increasingly worried. His father then filed a missing person report with the Baltimore County Police Department. As the investigation unfolded, a witness came forward, claiming to have seen someone matching Martise's description near the Liberty Road corridor on the same day he vanished. However, authorities were unable to confirm if this was truly him. If it was, then this would be the last known sighting of Martise before he disappeared. 6 days later, on August 10th, 2014, police discovered Martise's car abandoned just 2 miles from his apartment. Investigators searched the vehicle and surrounding area, hoping to find any clues that might explain what had happened. Unfortunately, nothing of significance was found, leaving more questions than answers. As time passed, the case grew colder and MARTISE remained missing. However, his family never stopped searching for him. His mother has openly expressed her belief that her son did not simply disappear voluntarily. From the moment she found out he hadn't come home, she knew something was wrong. She has remained vocal about her concerns, believing foul play was involved. Over the years, MARTISE's family has made numerous public appeals, urging anyone with information to come forward. Authorities have also continued to investigate, but with no new leads and very little evidence, the case has reached a standstill. To generate new tips, Metro Crime Stoppers of Maryland has offered a $2,000 reward to anyone who can provide information that leads to MARTISE's whereabouts or helps identify the person responsible for his disappearance. If you have any information about MARTISE Brian Williams' disappearance, please get in touch with the Baltimore County Police Department at 410-887-2214 or Metro Crime Stoppers of Maryland at 866-756-2587. In the heart of the American South, between the quiet country roads of Sardis, Mississippi, and the city streets of Memphis, Tennessee, an ordinary drive turned into a haunting mystery. A man disappeared, a car was left behind, and a family was left with questions that no one has been able to answer. This is the story of Wayne Miller. Wayne was just 33 years old, a son, a brother, a father. Described by his loved ones as funny, warm-hearted, and deeply devoted to his family, especially his mother. He lived in Memphis, but had ties to Sardis, Mississippi, where he would often visit. He was dependable, grounded, the kind of person you could count on to check in, which made what happened next all the more chilling. On February 3rd, 2025, Wayne had been in Sardis, a small town located in Panola County, Mississippi. He was preparing to head back home to Memphis, roughly an hour's drive north. Before he left, he made a phone call, one that would later haunt his mother's memory. "Mama," he said, "you got a birthday coming up. I'm gonna get you something nice." That was the last time she ever heard his voice. Surveillance footage later confirmed that Wayne's vehicle was seen leaving Sardis, heading northbound on Highway 51, a road that eventually connects to Interstate 55, leading into Memphis. Everything seemed fine, nothing suspicious, just a man going home. But Wayne never arrived. 2 days later, on February 5th, 2025, his vehicle, a gray Dodge Journey, was found in South Memphis, parked near Zodiac Park, not far from East Person Avenue. When officers arrived, the scene was strange. One of the car's tires was missing. The keys were left inside the vehicle. There were no signs of struggle, and no sign of Wayne. Just an abandoned car and silence. No calls, no messages, no social media activity. His phone went dark. The location itself raised eyebrows. Zodiac Park and the surrounding area are known for being a high-crime zone. Wayne's family said he had no reason to be there. He wasn't the type to just leave his vehicle in a neighborhood he didn't know. He wasn't in trouble. He wasn't on the run. He had plans for his mother's birthday. He had every intention of getting home. But something, or someone, derailed that journey. Was he targeted? Did he meet someone who meant him harm? Was there a carjacking gone wrong? Or did someone use his trust against him? As the days turned into weeks, Wayne's family grew desperate for answers. His disappearance gained traction on social media. Missing posters were circulated. Family members organized search efforts and pleaded for tips. But despite their efforts, no new leads emerged. Not a single confirmed sighting. Not a single update. Wayne Miller had seemingly vanished into thin air. Wayne is a black male, standing 6 feet tall, weighing about 240 pounds. He has black hair, brown eyes, and usually wears a beard. When he disappeared, he was likely wearing casual clothes, though specific details remain unclear. The Panola County Sheriff's Department and Memphis Police both opened investigations, but to date, no arrests have been made, and no persons of interest have been publicly identified. Wayne's disappearance shattered his family's world. His mother still listens to that final voicemail. His children still ask when their dad is coming home. And his siblings are still stuck in a cycle of hope and heartbreak. They've described the silence as torture. Every time the phone rings, they wonder if it's him. Every day that passes, they wonder if he's out there, somewhere, waiting to be found. They've asked the public for help. They've asked the police for updates. They've begged for someone, anyone, to come forward. Because somebody knows something. If you have any information about Wayne Miller's whereabouts or what happened on the day he disappeared, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant, please contact the Panola County Sheriff's Department or Crime Stoppers in Memphis. You can remain anonymous. Someone out there holds the key to this case. Maybe it's you. Wayne Miller didn't just walk away from his life. He didn't abandon his family. Something happened between Sardis and Memphis, something that turned an ordinary drive into a cold case. His story isn't over. Let's not let it fade into the background. Help us share his name, share his face, share his story, because Wayne deserves to be found, and his family deserves peace. For the past 5 months, the 3 children of 31-year-old Cindy GAUSLINE have been left wondering what happened to their mother. Cindy disappeared under mysterious circumstances in September 2024, leaving behind her family, her home, and all of her belongings. Since that day, there have been no clear answers, and the investigation has made little progress. Cindy lived in an apartment in southeast San Antonio, and it had been a difficult year for her. Over the summer, she was struck by a truck, an accident that ultimately cost her her job. Despite this hardship, those closest to her never noticed any unusual behavior or signs that something was wrong. In fact, on the day she went missing, she seemed to be in a good mood. On the afternoon of September 15th, Cindy left her apartment for what would be the last time. She was dressed in a black dress and high-top sneakers, laughing and smiling as she walked out the door. Before leaving, she reassured her daughter that she would be back within a few hours, or by the following morning at the latest. A few hours later, Cindy's daughter received an unexpected voice call through Facebook Messenger. On the other end of the line was her mother, but something about the call felt off. Cindy sounded frightened. She told her daughter that something was going on and that she needed to tell her something important. But before she could say anything more, the call suddenly disconnected. That was the last time anyone heard from her. As Cindy's family began searching for her, they couldn't shake the feeling that something was very wrong. Her disappearance was completely out of character. Cindy didn't drive, so she had left on foot, and no one knew where she was going or who she was with that night. Normally, she was careful about letting a family member or close friend know her plans, which made this unannounced trip all the more concerning. Even stranger was the fact that Cindy had left all of her belongings behind, including her phone. This meant that when she made that alarming call, she had used someone else's device. But whose phone was it? And why had she been so afraid? These unanswered questions made the search for Cindy even more difficult. In the days following her disappearance, Cindy's loved ones did everything they could to locate her. They distributed missing person flyers throughout her apartment complex, hoping someone had seen or heard something. But their efforts didn't bring any new leads. It was as if she had simply vanished without a trace. Law enforcement classified Cindy as an endangered missing person, but they never explained why she received that designation. Since then, there have been no major updates in the investigation. Cindy's family and friends remain just as desperate for answers as they were the night she went missing. They strongly believe that someone out there knows what happened and are pleading for anyone with information to come forward. If you know anything about Cindy GAUSLINE's disappearance, please contact the San Antonio Police Department's Missing Person Unit at 210-207-7660. Any piece of information, no matter how small, could help bring her home.